Hello and welcome to the Ellen Make Book Club, and these are some new books that I got. I have gotten quite a few books lately and I have a lot more coming because I have put some pre-orders in, which make me very happy and filled with anticipation, which I think is a really good thing. I haven't ordered like crazy amounts of books or anything, but there are books that I've had on my wish list for months and months, and then I see that the paperback is going to come out in a few months time, and I know that I'm going to buy it when it comes out, and so I just keep going back to my wish list and just looking at it and like, I want to buy it now, but I can't. But I can pre-order it, and pre-ordering books, you know, makes a lot of difference for authors and, you know, showing interest in the book. And so I figured I would do that. And so now I have books coming throughout August. Like every month I have a couple of books coming. So that's something to look forward to. But the first books that I got from my library. They were doing a bit of a clear out and I just couldn't believe my luck. They're selling all of those books for 2 crowns each, which is about 20 cents. So like if there's a book on there that I want, I'm going to buy it. And the first book I had just found on BookBeat, which is the audiobook app that I use. And I found it on there and I was just like, that sounds like a very interesting book. It's not very long and it's written by a Sami author, which is the indigenous people of Scandinavia, like the north part of Scandinavia. And so then when I went to look in the library little clear out shelf, like it's not a lot of books, and I've never heard of this book before, but then there it was, and it was 2 crowns, and so I was like, I'm gonna get that, and then I can like immersion read it. I have the Swedish copy, and it's called Himlabrand by Moa Backe Åstot, and there is a English translation that I have the audiobook for as well, and that is called Fire in the Sky or something. Maybe I should look that up. Fire from the Sky, it's called, and the audiobook is like 5 hours long, and this is also very short, and like the text is quite big. The chapters seem short. It is a young adult book, so I might save this for August and read it for the August. But yeah, I just thought it would be a good choice for my diversity book bingo. It would be, you know, queer representation and indigenous representation, minority representation, and I've been wanting to read more books set in Sweden or by Swedish authors or by Sami authors, and I just, you know, it just ticked a lot of boxes for me, and it was 2 crowns, so I'm very happy with this purchase. And then the other book that I found at the library for 2 crowns was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is a very well-known and very loved book, and I have been wanting to read it for ages, but I haven't taken it out from the library because it's a bit longer, and I just, you know, don't want to have to return it half read because I haven't gotten through it in the time that I have had it on loan, and I haven't found a copy that I liked, that I was willing to like pay the price for a new book for. And so when I saw this for 2 crowns, and it's in English, so yeah, that was another very easy decision. I haven't read anything from V.E. Schwab before. You know, I know she's a very well-loved author, and I have been wanting to try something of hers, and I feel like this is a good place to start. I also think that Kat at Curious Cat recommended this to me specifically. She read it last year, I think, and really loved it, and thought that I would too. And yeah, now I have no excuse not to read it. And then I got a book secondhand on a Swedish like online secondhand selling trading site, The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue. And I have had this book on my radar and this author on my radar for a while. And again, I don't want to buy the book new because I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it. It's romance, I think, and it's also like, you know, life in your 20s, and that can be fun sometimes, and sometimes like I feel too old for that. But I've heard really good things about this from Flo at Flo Harvey, I don't know what the channel name is, Florence Harvey. Anyway, She loves this author, and we seem to have similar interests or like tastes in other books, but she's also younger than me, so I wasn't sure. And then Angelia at Read and Reread also said that this was better than she had expected, and said that it had a little bit more depth and like isn't as like fluffy as it might seem. And so then I was like, okay, I can buy this secondhand. I didn't pay a lot for it, maybe like $5 or something, and it's in good condition and it's in English, and yeah, I'm excited to try this author. She has other books that I'm interested in too, so if I like the writing style and the vibe of the book, I know there are more books that I could try. And then, like I said, I ordered some new books, and even if I order them, you know, all at once, they tend to arrive in small little packages one by one, which is kind of annoying. I don't know how that works, but I guess they have different, you know, suppliers or something. I don't know. But the first one to arrive from that order I placed a few, never mind. That is Women of a Promiscuous Nature by Donna Everhart. And this is a brand new release, and it's historical fiction, women's history in the US. And it seems horrifying and terrifying and absolutely insane. This compelling and haunting novel from one of the most powerful voices in Southern historical fiction tells of the shocking, little-known, decades-long government scheme that saw thousands of young women across the United States and throughout the 20th century subjected to incarceration and medical treatment against their will. I'll read a little bit off the back. The day Ruth Foster's life changes begins the same way as many others, with a walk through her North Carolina hometown toward the diner where she works. But on this day, Ruth is stopped by the local sheriff, who insists that she accompany him to a health clinic. Women like Ruth, young, unmarried, living alone, must undergo testing in order to preserve decency and prevent the spread of sexual disease. Though Ruth has never shared more than a chaste kiss with a man, by day's end she's one of dozens of women held at the State Industrial Farm Colony for Women. I'm expecting this to be an emotional and difficult and infuriating read, but I think it sounds like an important read, and it's a part of history that I had no idea about, and so I'm intrigued to learn more about that, even if this is, you know, a novel. It's fiction, but it's based in real history, and it just sounds absolutely insane, and it sounds unfortunately very relevant, and so yeah, I thought this sounded very intriguing, and so that's why I decided to get it. Let me know if you have read anything by this author before, because she has a few books out previously: When the Jessamine Grows, The Saints of Swallow Hill, and The Moonshiner's Daughter. I've never heard of any of those or the author's name, but yeah, this one was too intriguing for me to pass up. Thank you! Okay, so now let's open this big thing. I think there are 3 or maybe 4 books in here, we'll see. I do think I know what one of them is, and that is one that I am very much looking forward to. And then there might be a couple that I'm not sure what they are. I don't know if they were very intentional or a bit more spontaneous purchases, but let's open and find out. It looks like there are 3 books in here. What? Yes. Okay. So first of all, we have the book of Speculation by Erica Swyler. It's so pretty. This is a bit of a different choice for me, but it was recommended to me by Nicky at My Messy Bookshelf like a year ago or so, when I celebrated my first anniversary on BookTube. I created a tag like recommending books to other booktubers, and then they did that in return and also like recommended books to other booktubers, which I thought was a lot of fun. And I got a bunch of recommendations, and then I sort of forgot about that, and then I realized I should probably read some of those. And so this is one that I decided to buy. It says A Luscious Experience, Dark, Sweet and Wild, and that sounds good. This book follows Simon, who receives a mysterious book connected to his family, and the book is about 2 doomed lovers from 200 years ago. And as Simon reads this book, he realizes that a lot of women in his family drown on the 24th of July. And he has a sister, and July 24th is approaching and he needs to figure this out. I love a book where there's a book, like some kind of mysterious thing about your family history and like figuring that out. And I like that there's a bit of a deadline to it. And yeah, it sounds adventurous and I trust Nicky's recommendation. So I'm really excited to read this. It sounds like a lot of fun and yeah, I hope I enjoy it. Let's pick the next book from here. And that is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a short little history. No, this is a short little history. No, what's it called? Horror novel. Or novella, or I don't know. It's a little book and it's really creepy. I think the cover is beautiful and kind of disgusting at the same time. I've been so close to buying this in the store so many times and then I chicken out. I feel like maybe it's too scary for me. But then I was talking to someone who had read it. They said it wasn't too bad and like they don't read a lot of horror themselves and that it wasn't like body horror or like anything too gruesome, because you know the cover might give you that idea, and so I trusted that. And then I recently saw Caitlin at Spill the Reads review this, and she was completely freaked out. And I had already ordered this by that time, I think. So now I'm scared again, but I do want to give this a go because I keep hearing very good things about it. And it's short and I'm trying to figure out like what my taste in horror is, and I feel like it's necessary to read some common ones and like some books that a lot of people have read that so that you can sort of compare, like it's not as scary as that book or it's similar in creepy vibe to that book, and like you need some points of reference, and I think like this could be a good such point of reference, but because a lot of people have read this and lots of people seem to like it, so I figured I would try it. I am a little bit creeped out, but at least it will work for the body part prompt on the buzzword cover challenge this year, so at least there's that. And then I think the final book was also a book that I have heard Caitlin at Spill the Reads talk a lot about, and also Kim at, what's her channel name? Kim Reads and Reviews. They both have loved this book, and it's She's a Lamb by Meredith Hamrock. I love the style of the artwork, and I love the colors, and I love the expression, and I love the unhinged woman in this story who thinks she's going to be, cast in the main part of this play. I think they're doing The Sound of Music, and she's like, I'm gonna be Maria, and then she's like the childminder person. She's not really willing to accept her fate. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds suspenseful and like a really good time, and I look at it. I didn't realize that the A disappears behind her mouth. That's so weird. But I also really love it. This could also work for the body parts prompt on the buzzword cover challenge because there's a tongue there, and that's an internal organ. Exploring ego, trauma, and the brutal pursuit of great art. This book is hilarious until it's terrifying, maddening until it's tragic. Meredith Hamrock is a star. Like, doesn't that tell you everything you need to know? And it's, nice and floppy. And then I got some more books. So these have come in one by one over the last week or so, and I didn't want to wait to do an unboxing, so I've just opened them and been excited about them as they have arrived. The first one is Assembly by Natasha Brown, which I have been wanting to read for about 2 years now. I saw it first on Nickelle's Nook booktube channel. She read this and thought it was great, and I wanted to read it too. I know my library has it and I've been meaning to take it out, but I never have, and then I got it and I read it in like a day because it's very short. And I thought this was more about this woman going to like a garden party with her boyfriend's sort of wealthy family, and that does happen, and like, but it happens sort of towards the end of the book, and it's not like a huge plot around that garden party or anything. It's more just sort of her thoughts about her work and the structural obstacles that she has to deal with. There's racism and sexism in here, and yeah, just lots of little observations and daily situations that she deals with. I really enjoyed this. I won't get into it too much now, but yeah, this is a new book that I got and that I've already read. The next book I've also had on my TBR for a long time, and that is Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. This one reminds me a lot of The Garden by Nick Newman, which I have read, and this one came out after this one, so if there are any inspirations, you know, this one came out before this one, but I've read this one and I really enjoyed it. This one is about Jeannie and Julius, who are twins, and they live in a ramshackle cottage with their mother, and then their mother passes away. It says, when their mother Dot suddenly dies, threats to their livelihood start raining down. Desperate to preserve their small sanctuary against the perils of the outside world, Jeannie and Julius find themselves pushed further to the margins as their mother's secrets begin to unravel, putting everything they thought they knew about their lives at stake. There's a lot of similarities, which is why I'm interested in reading this one, like another take on that scenario. And yeah, I hope I enjoy it. And Unsettled Ground was also shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. And I do have another book, or two actually, that were longlisted for this year's Women's Prize for Fiction. The first one is A Guardian and a Thief by Megha Majumdar, and I have read this one as well. I've listened to most of it on audiobook, which I thought was pretty well done. Not perfect, but for the most part I enjoyed it. And this is about a woman who is trying to leave India to go to the United States with her father and her daughter, who's like 2 years old, and their passports and like immigration documents are stolen a week before they are set to leave. And yeah, the main character has to try to figure that out. I'll talk about this one more in a future wrap-up as well, but I'm very happy to have this book. And then the other book that I bought that was nominated for the Women's Prize for Fiction this year was Gloria Don't Speak by Lucy Apps. This one follows a girl called Gloria who has a learning disability and not a lot of things to do, but she has this friend called Jack, but then there's some kind of an incident and Jack ends up in prison. Yeah, after an act of violence, their friendship has to end, and now Gloria's on her own, and then he's out of prison, and then her world is turned upside down. And I don't really know what happens, but I think that sounds interesting and I want to know more. Yeah, I'm excited to get to this one, hopefully pretty soon. The next one was a little bit more of an impulse buy, I guess, but I just thought it sounded really interesting. And that is Perspectives by Laurent Binet. This is translated from the French by Sam Taylor. And I have another book by the same author, which is HHHH, and this is historical fiction about an event that took place during the Second World War. And I haven't read this yet, but I've heard very good things. And so I recognized the author's name on this one. And then there's art on the cover with these like modern or like more graphic elements on top, and that always catches my eye. It's New Year's Day in Florence, 1557, and as dawn breaks, a painter is discovered lying on the floor of a church, stabbed through the heart. And that's pretty much all I needed to know. There's a little bit more on the back. There's sort of scandalous painting found, and then there's an art historian who is picked to lead the investigation to find out who the murderer is, who painted this scandalous painting, and how it all you know, is connected. That sounds like something I would enjoy, so I decided to pick this one up as well. And then I have 2 books that were longlisted for the International Booker Prize this year. I do have a couple more coming from that long list because there were, a few on there that sounded really interesting to me. And the first one is On Earth as It Is Beneath by Anna Paula Maya, translated by Padma Viswanathan. I hope I'm saying that right. And it looks like something fun and lighthearted on the cover, but it's also got these like teeth-like things. And it says, in a remote corner of Brazil, life in a forgotten prison takes a sadistic, deadly turn. On land where enslaved people were once tortured and murdered, the state built a penal colony in the wilderness where inmates could be rehabilitated but never escape. Now, decades later, and having only succeeded in trapping men, not changing them for the better, its operations are winding down. But in the prison's waning days, a new horror is unleashed. Every full moon night, a handful of inmates are set free. The warden is armed with rifles, and the hunt begins. Every man plans his escape, not knowing if his end will come at the hands of a familiar face or from the unknown dangers beyond the prison walls. This just sounds like an insane premise, and yeah, I can't wait to read this one. And then the other one from the International Booker Prize longlist is Women Without Men by Sharnoosh Parsipour, and this one is translated from Persian by Faridun Farooq. This internationally acclaimed masterpiece by one of Iran's most important and influential writers traces the interwoven destinies of 5 women, including a wealthy middle-aged housewife, a sex worker, and a school teacher, as they arrive by different paths to live together in an abundant garden on the outskirts of Tehran. This one was originally published in 1989 and has now been translated into English. The title is intriguing to me, and the premise and the setting is intriguing to me, so I decided to give this one a try as well. And then the final book for this book haul, I think, is a book that I have had on my TBR for a while as well, and that is The Mark by Frida Isberg, translated by Larissa Kaiser, and this is translated from the Icelandic, and it seems to be a speculative sort of thriller, maybe, dystopian. The Icelandic Psychological Association has prepared a test, a sensitivity assessment that measures a person's empathy and identifies their potential for antisocial behavior. Some believe the test makes society safer, others decry it as a violation. But is that just because of all they stand to lose? As a referendum to make the test compulsory draws closer, 4 people find themselves caught in the teeth of the debate. But no matter which side wins, they will all have to find a way to live with the result. That premise sounds very intriguing to me. I am interested in the empathy test and what the consequences of taking that are, and yeah, just what the story is about that. There's also something about this mark, and I think that people are like marked somehow based on their results, and like maybe I'm assuming that affects how they're treated or like what they can do or something. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it sounds very interesting, very suspenseful, and I can't wait to get to this one. And it's so pretty. Seeing them all together, it seems a bit insane to me, but I'm also very excited to read all of these, and yeah, I'm very happy to have these on my shelves now. Thanks for hanging out, and let me know if you have gotten any new books recently too. I would love to hear about that. I love getting new books. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.